You walk into a party, or an office, or maybe you're just catching up with friends. The room is buzzing, everyone is laughing, and someone is already mid-story. And right then, something strange happens. On the outside, you're standing there, smiling and nodding. Everything looks completely normal. But on the inside, a completely parallel process is running. Your brain is hyperscanning everything at lightning speed. Am I standing weird? Where do I put my hands? What is that guy who just looked at me thinking? And the absolute worst part, you feel utterly alone in that room. One person out of 20, alone in a crowd. This isn't just being shy or modest, it's a trap. And today, we're going to break it down piece by piece, because most people who are stuck in it don't even know what it's called. The first thing you need to understand is that introversion and social anxiety are not the same thing. They are completely different concepts that people have been confusing for years, and it carries a heavy price. An introvert is simply someone who is more comfortable being alone. They don't need a crowd to feel alive. They spend an evening with a book or in total quiet, recharge, and they're good to go the next day. No drama, no fear, just a preference. Social anxiety works differently. Someone with social anxiety wants to socialize. They want to be around people, they want to be liked, and they want to build relationships. But every single time they find themselves in a social setting, something inside them flips the panic switch. Judgment, rejection, failure. The brain perceives these not as an inconvenience or mild discomfort, but as a literal threat to survival. A threat. And the body reacts accordingly. Your heart rate spikes, your thoughts race, and you want to either blend into the wallpaper or escape right then and there. Now, throw the digital age into the mix. We have Instagram, Telegram, Discord, TikTok, hundreds of contacts. You can message anyone at any time. It feels like loneliness shouldn't even exist, right? But here's the catch. The brain doesn't register likes and chat reactions as genuine connection. A like on a photo isn't the same as a person sitting right across from you, truly listening. A fire emoji isn't a hug. The brain gets a cheap substitute, settles down for 5 minutes, but the hunger for real connection never goes away. It just grows in the background. And the more an anxious person replaces real-world interactions with digital ones, the deeper the hole becomes. You thought the more followers you had, the less lonely you'd feel? Here is why it actually works the exact opposite way, and what to do about it. Social anxiety is kept alive by two main cognitive distortions. Almost every psychologist knows them, but knowing about them doesn't mean you won't fall for them. So let's look at them honestly. The first is the spotlight effect. Imagine you walk into a meeting, you're presenting to your team, and at some point, you trip over your words. It's no big deal, just a split-second stumble. But in your head, that moment turns into an absolute catastrophe. You are convinced that everyone in the room noticed, that everyone will remember it, and that they all think you're incompetent now. You literally feel like you're standing under a massive spotlight, where your every misstep is on full display. The reality? Every single person in that room was managing their own spotlight. One was worrying about how they looked. Another was thinking about how to reply to an email from an hour ago. A third was figuring out what to have for lunch. Your stumble passed right by most of them, completely unnoticed. This has been proven in dozens of studies. People drastically overestimate how noticeable they are to others. Your brain creates the illusion that you are the center of attention, but in reality, everyone is starring in the center of their own universe. The second distortion is mind reading. Someone yawns while you're talking, so you must be boring. A group of people is laughing in the corner, so they must be laughing at you. A coworker hasn't replied to your text, so they must be angry or look down on you. An anxious brain weaves entire narratives, always ending with the exact same punchline. You suck, you're not wanted, you don't belong. But here's the interesting part. This mechanism isn't a bug, it's a feature. Millions of years ago, it was critical for our ancestors to read social cues instantly. Being cast out of the tribe meant literal death. So the brain learned to guess other people's intentions before they even voiced them. The problem is, we don't live in a 20-person tribe anymore. We live in a world where a yawn is just a yawn. Yet the brain still runs that ancient software. Danger, you're being judged, you might be rejected. And while you're busy catching signals, scanning reactions, and interpreting every single glance, you completely drop out of the conversation. You are physically present, but you aren't really there. That's exactly where that feeling of being alone in a crowd comes from. And this brings us to the most important part: how to get out of it. The first tool is shifting your focus. It sounds simple, but it's a real trainable skill. When you're in a social situation and feel your brain starting to scan you, how you look, what people think of you, whether you're holding your glass right, there is one move that cuts through it. You flip your attention outward, literally, away from yourself, not toward yourself. Start truly listening to the person who is speaking. Don't just wait for your turn to talk, and don't rehearse your next sentence. Listen to what they are saying right now. Look at the details around you, how the room is decorated, the expression on someone's face, what's happening in the background. This isn't meditation or magic. It's a concrete way to snap your brain out of a self-monitoring loop. When your attention is directed outward, the spotlight turns off, because you're no longer the one operating it. Studies on this technique show that people with social anxiety who practice shifting their focus in real-world scenarios report finding social interactions significantly less exhausting after just a few weeks, not because they became different people, but because they stopped burning all their energy on internal monitoring. The second tool is embracing vulnerability. This is something most people don't talk about because they're terrified of looking weak. But here's the truth. Awkwardness is exactly what makes people feel real. Little slip-ups are what make you human, not a robot. There is a classic experiment called the pratfall effect. In 1966, psychologist Elliot Aronson discovered that a highly competent person who makes a minor mistake is perceived as more likable and attractive by others than someone who appears completely flawless. Perfection creates distance. It's not relatable. When someone stumbles and handles it lightly, it triggers empathy, not judgment. What this means is that when you say the wrong thing or forget a word in a conversation, you don't need to wish the ground would swallow you whole. You can just say, "Sorry, totally lost my train of thought. Give me a second." Or just laugh at yourself. People around you aren't thinking less of you in that moment. They're thinking, "Oh, they're human, just like me." Vulnerability isn't a social weakness. It's a bridge between people. And the final thing to understand about all of this: social anxiety doesn't vanish just because you forced yourself to have one conversation. There is no magic switch you can just flip. It's a skill built gradually, through small actions in real situations. By staying in the discomfort just a little bit longer than you want to. By choosing to look outward instead of inward every single time. By giving yourself permission to be imperfect. The crowd stops feeling like a desert not when everyone else changes, but when you stop being a stranger to yourself.